If you want to save time and still get accurate results, then partner with 4 Pillars Research, proud sponsors of PI Perspectives. We specialize in uncovering insurance policies that can make or break your case. From identifying unknown policies to uncovering accurate policy information, we streamline the process so you can focus on your case. Partner with 4 Pillars Research and unlock the full potential of your investigations. Visit researchfpr.com to learn more.
Looking for an insurance agent that puts you first? Every PI business is different. That's why OREP Insurance can shop multiple markets to ensure you get the best coverage to meet your unique business needs. OREP's model is business by the golden rule, and for over 20 years, they've built their business by putting their clients first. So come enjoy a fast online application and same-day certificates of insurance at OREP.org. OREP has coverage for armed investigators, executive protection, and even has a separate policy for security firms. The application takes less than 5 minutes, so visit OREP.org today. OREP.org.
We're proud to announce a partnership with investigatorconference.com. This free site tracks all the live events in the industry. Want to plan out your travel schedule to see what events are happening in the next few months? Are you hosting an event? Send them an email to add the date. Visit the site today. That's investigator-conference.com. Investigator-conference.com.
Do you enjoy our podcast and the guests we bring you? Since 2019, Matt and his team have done their very best to give you amazing shows each week. If you feel like our show has helped you to be a better investigator, or maybe even inspired you to become an investigator, please let us know. We're looking for testimonials. Drop Matt an email with a recorded 20 to 30 seconds of you talking about this podcast. You can also email him something verbal about the website. His email is matthew.s@satellitepi.com. And if you really feel blessed for having this content, consider supporting Matt and our show by joining Investigators Toolbox. You really have to see version 2.0. And at just 49 cents a day, it's a no-brainer. Now let's jump in to this week's episode.
This week is the last week to participate in the annual PI survey sponsored by Working PI Magazine, OREP, PI Institute for Education, and Investigators Toolbox. Visit workingpimag.com and click on Survey Results to take the new survey. Survey ends on January 31st. Links in the show notes. Welcome to the newest episode of PI Perspectives. On today's show, Matt welcomes Judie Saunders from Ask LLP. Judie has made a career out of representing individuals that have been a victim of sex crimes. There's some real synergy between an investigator and a sexual assault attorney. This conversation brings attention to Sex Traffic and Assault Awareness Month. Please welcome Judie Saunders and your host, New York Private Eye, Matt Spaier.
And welcome everyone to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today I have a longtime client and friend on. I had asked her to come on and really bring awareness to the Sex Traffic Awareness Month and sex assault awareness. And I'm really, really happy to have my friend Judie Saunders here from Ask LLP. Judie, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we first met, I want to say, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Right. We had a mutual acquaintance, and he's like, hey, you need to talk to my friend Judie. She does, like, she could use an investigator. And as soon as we met each other, we're like, okay, why haven't we worked together before? But why don't you tell folks who you are and what you do and what your specialty is?
Well, again, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to appear on the show, especially to talk about sex trafficking, the awareness, and the focus this month. So I exclusively, in my practice with Ask LLP, represent survivors of sexual assault.
Right.
I am based in New York and New Jersey, but the firm handles cases from all over. So, for example, I have the honor of representing clients in my home state of Maryland, the DMV. We have cases also in California. We have cases in New Jersey, in New York. So it's a national practice. But what makes it so special is that I consider myself one of those professionals that really got lucky, in
Right.
that I am doing something that every day I am thankful that I found this practice area. It chose me and that I'm able to do it. It's
Yeah.
hard work, it's tough work, but just when I think that maybe, um, the latest case or the latest, news will put me out of business because people will finally get it. I realize that, you know, I am part of a chorus of attorneys who are chipping away at, this violation of
Yeah.
sexual abuse. So
Yeah.
that's what I do every day, all day.
Yeah, I think what really like turned the tides around on this, where it became such a big thing. Obviously, you had statutes that were extended, but I think when you start talking about the predatory practices online, as soon as we started living our lives online, I think folks really started to dig more into this and see that, wow, this is a systemic issue that's all over the country. It's not just, that crazy father, whatever his name is, or rabbi, so and so that's doing this stuff. It's really on a bigger scale, and to see how things have changed. And the one problem I think behind that is now all the lobbyist money that's behind it for the other side.
Right,
Like
right.
these online people that they want to protect the privacy of their users, and there's that back and forth on it. I think it's really, really interesting.
Absolutely. The other thing that's bringing awareness, not only because there's two sides to being online. One is that it does connect us in different ways. There are, the overuse, of social media is a problem. But we also see that if used and when used correctly, we're able to get a message out, even through, podcasts that, are, bring awareness to this. But we're able to get a message out and to show the patterns on behalf of institutions and institutional defendants. And that's almost exclusively where I work, in representing individuals where we're showing the patterns of concealment, whether it is a academic institution, a religious, a youth group. It People are starting to see that this was a pattern that has consisted for years. You mentioned statute of limitations. For decades, I would dare say, since, the way that laws were even created and initially written, we have arbitrarily in the law placed different time limits. And these time limits many times barred individuals from walking into court and informing not only in their individual case, but the larger public that this person, this institution has violated me.
Right.
Statute of limitations have barred that. But with the removal of these statutes across the country, in Maryland, in California, or the revival, we're able really now, like I said, to show those patterns that have been going on and why we need further reform to statute of limitations.
Yeah, and there are organizations that are out there. I think you and I also we tend to connect at AAJ when they have their events. Their Child Hope USA is another organization that I've been involved with, and I know you're pretty involved on a national level with these associations, right?
Yes, the associations are vital to our practice. They're vital to individual plaintiffs, counsels, also plaintiffs' firms, because so many times we are outfunded, outgunned, and outmatched. But collectively, we can work together through organizations like the American Association for Justice, brilliant organization, love them, use all of their resources. Another one that you mentioned briefly, Child USA, where I serve on the board now, doing great work at the grassroots level. A lot of what we need for further reform happens at the grassroots level. And when I say grassroots, I'm kind of hearkening back to my days where I worked in politics. Everything was grassroots. You got to get out the vote. Politics are local. All of those concepts holds true to reforms that we need in, in sexual abuse and sexual assault. Matt, it wasn't just 2 nights ago. We received a call from an individual who, unfortunately, his case was barred. I could not take it,
Right.
but to hear him talk about how he only realized very recently what happened to him. Don't get me started. Don't let me go off on a tangent about a statute of limitations, but I will just, put a fine point on that. At the end of the call and during the call, I listened because that's what I do, but I
Right.
had to say, there's nothing that I can do. Your case is time barred. You can't bring awareness. You can't seek relief for what happened to you.
Yeah. It's a tough conversation to have. They finally work up the courage to say something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I can finally have my day in court. Oh, I'm sorry. Like
Absolutely.
you missed it, and that's why the getting the word out, the grassroots that you talked about, and the publication, making the public aware, like if this happened to you, you need to say something. It's okay, right? The Me Too movement back years ago began that, started to just normalize, people talking about trauma and things they suffered about. I'm a child of the 80s. We didn't talk about stuff. Things happen.
Absolutely.
You didn't talk to people about it. It's like suck it up and move on and move forward. But that shift kind of changed, and for the better, obviously. Now that we're able to kind of dig in and talk about it and really just kind of understand, and it's hard when you got to go back all those years too, to try and put the pieces together. Which after the break we'll talk about the investigator's role in it and how we assist folks like you doing this stuff. So you've been doing this pretty much your whole career then.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was that
Absolutely.
driving force for you? What did you say, like, hey, I really feel like a passion that I got to get into this?
It was a mentor that really kind of got me situated in this space. We both attended the University of Maryland School of Law. Pat Gatlin was really instrumental in showing how I can use my training, trial skills, and litigation on behalf of individuals. And while I'd say years 0 to 5 were particularly difficult, once you kind of put your head on, I'm the type of individual, once I know, the goal, once I know an objective, I'm kind of blinders on. And what
Sure.
do we need to do? So I say all that to say, you don't necessarily, when someone hears the word, oh, you represent, sexual abuse survivors or sexual abuse, sexual trafficking, I think we immediately recoil. But my job is to really work as a clinician almost. I'm borrowing some of those terms that we would take from the medical practice, meaning let's evaluate this, let's diagnose this, let's see if I can use many times what I think is the imperfect tool of the law to see if you can be helped under the law.
Yeah.
I have so many clients that the first thing they say to me, I'm not coming to you because I want money. I'm not coming to you because, for this reason or that reason. However, what's important and why sexual trafficking awareness is so important, it's because over the course of someone's life, as you were saying about normalizing these topics, we live in a culture where we're not used to believing that if you were injured because of sexual abuse or sexual trafficking, you believe that you have no right to a monetary remedy or some type of settlement or award. Our law allows for that, and you should not be ashamed of that. So Why did I get into this? I got into this initially. It was kind of, you're trying to, early in a career, you're trying to figure out where your place is. But
Right.
once you start, tooling yourself, and once you start getting comfortable, I had the luxury of thinking about where I can use these tools, where I can use sometimes my absolute rage that I feel. The law is a good way to channel that.
Right.
And when you're talking about,
Yeah.
children or vulnerable individuals, and, concealment, that I have a great area to practice in. And so that's how I got in. And that's really why I stay in, because,
Yeah.
you know, every morning I get up, or, almost every other morning, when you're not kind of down about it, but it gives you a platform and the ability. I know that what I'm doing is chipping away at the things that make every community vulnerable. You
Yeah.
can't sit on a train in New York City, and I believe anecdotally, you can't sit on a full train in New York City during rush hour, look to your left and look to your right, and there's not someone who hasn't been impacted. If they themselves haven't been directly assaulted, it's their mother, it's their sister, it's their brother, their father, or they're the employer and they've been sexually assaulted. So this is a community, city, world epidemic. And so that's why I stay in it.
That's fantastic. I feel like you have a heavy bag at home. You kind of found out times. It only makes sense. It's a heavy load to carry. Even as an investigator, going in and digging in, because you do live with it. And I have people on my team that specialize in this stuff. They it's their backgrounds, what they did for a living, and just hearing the stories. Being involved in the investigative process myself, it really is something that stays with you. It's not just turn it off, go home, and open a bag of chips and everything's cool. It's like you find yourself lying your head down at night, going, "Wow, I can't believe that happened." Like that's absolutely crazy. Or when you help somebody, right? Oh man, we got what they, and I know they're going to see justice here, and just that's why I like working on the plaintiff side, because I feel like I sleep better at night.
Yeah. Well, I would say I would agree. I do respect so many of my colleagues on the defense side, and I understand it. But I agree with you. It's this practice and what I do, the team that I work with, individuals like yourself, it is a perfect fit, and it does make, like I said, it makes me feel as if I'm one of those attorneys that are lucky about, they get to practice in this area.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break here. When we come back in, I want to start talking about the investigator's role and how we assist folks like you that are representing these people. How do you get that justice, right? What does that look like? What are some of the challenges that we deal with? Best practices, that kind of stuff. And, really talk through that so folks really understand. So everybody sit tight, and we'll be right back.
Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Satellite Investigations has launched its new website full of great new content. Matt and his team have released some great informative blogs. Make sure you log in to LinkedIn and follow Satellite Investigations for the latest content. Over the past year, our industry has been the target of foreign governments and agencies that have attempted to recruit unsuspecting investigators to gather intelligence or immediate expatriates. PI Perspectives is teaming up with the Federal Bureau of Investigations to get the word out about this ongoing crisis. If you've been contacted by an individual or company that might seem suspicious, please contact the FBI at tips.fbi.gov. You can also contact the New York field office at 212-384-1000 to report suspicious activity in any state. The link is also in the show notes. Even if you completed a job and it still doesn't sit right with you, you can report this activity. The only way to stop this trend is to work together. So let's do it.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. We're talking here today with Judie Saunders from Ask LLP. Judie, I want to welcome you back to the program.
Okay.
Yeah, so good to have you. So before we took the break, I had mentioned that I wanted to talk about our relationship. Like, what do I do for you? How do we help? How's an investigator involved in this? More than just the obvious, right? When you get that call in, what is the first step for you? How are you determining how you want to proceed with a particular?
Sure. Investigators are instrumental, vital. I don't see how you can run a personal injury practice, in my case, sexual abuse, without having a trusted investigator on your team. It would almost have to be malpractice. If it isn't, it's vital. So, when you're getting that initial intake, the majority of the cases that I have, I actually do the intake personally, or a lot of them, or even I'll do that second intake, I should say.
Right.
And it's at that conversation with the potential client that I am already writing down and taking mental notes as to what do I need Matt and his team to follow up on. That can be anything from, we have to do due diligence on the potential client. I need a digital footprint of that client. I need to make sure that what they're telling me, and I take this very seriously, when you are talking about instances of sexual harassment, whether sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, just that word, Matt, we know in our culture has a stigmatism. And I am not going to go forward and ruin someone's life, the alleged perpetrator, the alleged defendant, unless I believe that this complaining individual, but potential victim, unless I know that they are actually credible. And so that's where you come in. After
it is a process. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll jump in here quick. So, what I'd love about working with you, Judy, is we have these phone calls, right? So we have these like, hey, I got this new one in here. Let's strategize. Before we've even begun to do it, this is what I got here. This is what I'm thinking. What do you guys think? And having people like on my team that have that background, you can talk it through. And there's that comfort of like, okay, yeah, that's good. How viable is it to get this information? I got to find records back from like 1975, like a yearbook or all that. Like, is your team going to be able to do this? Right? What can I do on my own? What do I need to hire the investigator for? Right? That's another to have. How I've obviously got to be sensitive to a budget, right? So, what makes sense on that, and just being able to brainstorm that and really understand it. That's one of the things I got to say. Like with all the clients that I deal with, it's one of the things I appreciate the most of just having that initial kickoff call to understand what we're going to do.
That's so important, and I love to work like that. It is that brainstorming that's so important. And I think there's something very vital that you said. These cases that we have, especially the ones that are filed under revival windows and statute of limitations that have been reformed, some of these cases date back to the 1960s. You can't work up and develop these cases without an investigator. I'm looking for witnesses. I'm looking for records. I'm looking for, I'm looking for baptismal records. I'm looking for teachers, or I'm looking for office staff who may remember. So it's absolutely important. I know that you've helped me locate documents within schools that have had water or flood damage. So it really is important to work with an investigator. You all have resources
Right.
that, even if we have such things as, online databases through some of the large research services like Westlaw,
Mhm.
it's so important, I think. Especially, I know that you have former investigators, former detectives that worked in prosecutor's office in their sex crimes unit.
Yeah.
And that synergy, being able to talk to them, get their perspective, and say, well, hold up, Judie, because sometimes I am out the door. I'm like, let's go, let's do it. This is
Yeah.
what I think. And then to put the guardrails and say, well, wait a minute, I don't think that this is the way we should approach this. That really helps me think about the case. And the other thing early on, that working with your team also, it helps me move some of the burden of the investigation and some of that early pre-litigation onto your plate so that I can focus more on legal theory. So that's also another benefit.
Well, there's a trust factor, right? So we have relationships with your staff. Shout out to Janice. She's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Kind of dealing with that, and yeah, they're having that comfort level, and it's like, let the investigator do their job,
Mm.
so you can focus, you and your team can focus on the things that are important to you.
Yes.
The legal theories, getting the next court date, moving your case along in a timely fashion where you don't get bogged down. So one of the things when it comes to research like this, especially when it's older research like that, you can go down a rabbit hole quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And you get stuck. You really, really get stuck.
Yeah,
And when you're on a budget, you get less stuck.
absolutely.
When you're, it's just an employee who's hourly and they're doing whatever, you
Yeah.
could get stuck there a long time, and
It's true. It's
it's
true. And the one thing that is important to plaintiff side work is we don't have the luxury of the deep pockets. So we have to think about, we really have to be strategic, not only about the re-traumatizing our clients, but
right.
that early on, we need to really have an understanding if this is a case that we need to pursue. And you and your team can help us through that process,
Sure.
evaluate it. Look, yes, you may have what you may think may be either if we're looking to show notice, if we're looking to show that the institution had knowledge,
Right.
yes, we may very well want to develop that part of that, but you can help us understand if that's actually logistically going to be possible because
Right.
you don't have necessarily the resources to do that.
Yeah, and when you're talking about institutions as well, like insurance becomes a factor, right? Are
Absolutely.
they insured,
Yes.
right? You
Oh,
can get
yeah.
judgment, but who's
Oh,
paying?
yeah.
you know who's going to pay that bill once you get it, right? So that's
Yeah.
another angle that we assist with. I think something that's really important too as an investigator and understanding this, and then there are plenty of great investigators out there, rapport, right? The one thing that AI is never going to take away, right? In knowing how to talk
Mm,
to people and really develop intelligence and in a way that's going to prove your narrative, right? What's your goal here?
mm,
And painting that picture in such a sensitive information. It's sensitive for the injured party. It's sensitive for the witnesses. I don't want to
yeah.
I want to talk about this stuff. I don't want to revisit that thing from high school. Like that's old news. Like being able to get over that hurdle and knowing how to talk to people. It's a skill. And it really folks that do this kind of stuff like to learn how to do it. I get somebody on my staff who's actually a survivor as well. And when she would talk to people, she would use that as a connection. Hey, something like this happened to me before, and this is how, you know, help this person get that able to get over it. If you just help out, believe me, as a survivor, I know how important that is. Like that kind of stuff. Playing on someone's emotions on that sometimes that's helpful.
No, that you said it. AI will never take away that skill, that ability to communicate. I remember one instance where your investigator, it wasn't the survivor, but it was a witness, and I trusted that investigator to be able to use the right words, we've heard of this term, especially in my practice area, trauma informed. And that is a big concept, but it really takes having a lens on and approaching that individual without blame. And one would be surprised that witnesses, and that term, I'm using that term, whether it's an eyewitness or an ear witness, whether it's someone who learned later on of the abuse, you have to even approach those second or third collateral witnesses being trauma informed. Because again, in our culture, you say the word sex abuse and people shut down. So I like that your team is able to use a stance, use language. Did you have an opportunity? What did you know? They're able to reading body language. To me, running a trauma informed practice, that includes me partnering with individuals that also run a trauma informed practice.
Yeah.
And body language, nonverbal, is everything in trauma informed. So that's really important, especially in this practice area.
Yeah, and sometimes what we do is even before the case is taken in by the firm, not so much for your firm, but for other firms that we work with that do this, they'll bring us in to interview their own client.
Mm-hmm.
Just from the get-go. It's like, okay, so spend a couple hours talking to the client, go through it, and here you've got former law enforcement who would ask their typical questions and go through and do whatever, and then there'd be the powwow after that with the attorney. So like when we're questioning our attorney's client, our attorney client is not present. It's just the investigator and the individual, and he's going through his own processes of doing things. Person's always going to ask or answer a question differently to a non-attorney than they will attorney. It's just mentally, what do they want to hear? What does Judie want to hear? I'm going to go forward that, right? So just having that and then coming back and doing the powwow. Okay, this is what they told me. Oh, this is what they told me. Like, yeah, they go to this theory, but did you know they actually told me this that could be harmful for the theory that you're going at, right? So that's some of the things that we do also that our clients find helpful, some are like, hey, I know what I'm doing. Like I've been doing this a long time. I get it. I respect that. But having the ability to have just a second line of questioning could be helpful.
Absolutely.
And often, it just helps with strategy. And again, focusing on legal theories and things like that. That's your expertise. That's not ours. So,
no, that you make a good point. And also I would follow up by saying, so many times with survivors of sexual abuse, they just have partial disclosures. And part of the trauma is remembering portions of it. So something that you elicit may be different than what I elicit. So I agree with, having your team work in tandem in that way.
Absolutely. And it's just, you never know what you're going to get. One of the other things I learned too, as I went forward with this in my career and kind of, made the idea that, hey, we're going to specialize in this type of stuff, is understanding that when somebody makes a complaint to law enforcement, they'll investigate it sometimes. And if they can't connect the dots and say 100% this is something happened here, they'll just go and present it to a grand jury. And they'll let the grand jury decide, and sometimes the grand jury will indict, not having the full thing there. So it's like one of the other things we do is we pull apart the actual investigation. Was anything missed here? Was something, that should have been covered a little bit stronger? Like what are some of the key aspects on the civil side, not necessarily the criminal side, that we should push through and sometimes looking at those internal police documents, you may not understand that the golden nugget is like right in there or something that could prove the theory. So we do a lot of that as well.
So true. So true. And that's why, as I stated earlier, it's so crucial to work with a private investigator as you develop these cases, because if you do have the benefit of, a criminal conviction and now the case is being civilly prosecuted, having your team, having your, former detectives, former law enforcement go through that and read it because they're fluent and it's a whole set of different documents on the
Yeah.
criminal side. Amazing, super, very helpful on the civil side.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's really I call it a subject matter expert, right? When you have, somebody that really has that investigative background, that can pull it apart. I mean, there are just different angles on how to look at things. Your goals as the attorney, obviously is paramount there, but understanding that the experience of the investigator and how they can assist you in different ways. It's really almost like casting a net and seeing what's there. And sometimes they'll say, "Hey, I found this out, and that wasn't part of your theory." And you go, "Oh, okay. Here's some like what's action. Let's sneak that in there." Yeah,
Always, you always have to be prepared for things that you don't know, and it's better if you find it out early.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's being having that ability to dig into that. I mean, I can think over the years just the people that I've talked to, the witnesses, the statements I've taken. I remember there was one case, it wasn't with your office, but it was the brother of somebody who was an offender, and they were sending this guy over the world. I mean, it was like he was working for one of the religious institutions, and they would just pick him up and send him all. And this guy was doing things in Costa Rica, he was doing things in America, he was Brazil, he was all over the place, right? And the guy made a dying confession to his brother, essentially dying declaration. Yes, I did it. I'm sorry. It was horrible. All these things, right? And as an investigator, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just go with it. I'm gonna record it. I'm gonna bring it all down. I'm gonna get that from the brother saying, yes, he told me this. Now, legal theory, can you prove it? Is it admissible? I don't know. That's for Judie to figure out. But I remember I was
Yeah,
like, wow, this is crazy that this guy is telling me that his brother was dying, and he said, yep, everything they said
yeah.
I did. I need you to forgive me, brother, so I can die, feeling that I have some sort of forgiveness, and just having his brother like reconcile all that too was oh, I can sit here and spend another hour talking about all the crazy. I'm sure you've got more than I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, uh,
No, the right piece of evidence, you cases are won and lost on, either the facts and the law, ideally both, but the right piece of evidence that, an investigator has helped you uncover, nothing makes you feel better
yeah,
than, having that conversation or debriefing with an investigator and this statement has been obtained. One of the biggest difficulties that we have on our side as practitioners is for finding that corroborating evidence.
yeah,
And in cases that I have tried, I've found that juries are really persuaded by some of the smallest details that you can corroborate. Something that, when you're, just reading the case file, you would think this is benign. Why would this matter? But, being able to locate, whether it was a picture, whether it was an award, from the school, whether it was a piece of clothing or a bet. I had one case several years ago, whether it was the linens and being able to produce that stuff like that. Just the jury's like it, they can have, they can believe because no one wants to find someone liable. Usually, you have a difficult time saying that an institution is liable, but once you can start to corroborate and use the evidence from your investigator to show that this client is being truthful, this client can be believed, it then starts to string together the entire case where you can then show, you know, but for the
yeah.
institution failing to protect this child, this is what happened.
I remember years ago we had a case where there was an assault out on Long Island, out in Hamptons, and it was a private school, and it was a whole thing. It was two teachers that had an inappropriate relationship with like a 16-year-old
Mm,
girl. So can't consent, this and that. And as we started digging in, we found one of the teachers actually had been employed in New Jersey as a teacher, and he stopped working there and went to go work out in Long Island. Not a big deal, right? People change jobs all the time, right? Okay, so let's dig into this a little bit further, right? And
Mhm.
as we're peeling the onions and we're kind of figuring it out, he was dismissed, right? But he wasn't dismissed for any inappropriate, sexual assault related material officially, right? Digging into a hearing that took place, finding that there was like a board of ed kind of hearing that had a transcripts with minutes, right? All right, let's peel the onion. Let's get into the transcripts. And sure enough, in the transcripts, he had been accused of being inappropriate with students, this and that. Never charged, no criminal charge, none of that, but let go, right? And he was able to get another job because there was no criminal charge. There's nothing, right? So, but obviously there was a pattern there, right? So being able to show that there was a pattern. Is it the smoking gun where they're saying, okay, summary judgment, let's go? I don't know. The guy wasn't charged criminally. Again, that's the lawyers for do the lawyering. But you want to
Yeah.
talk about, having peeling the onion away and then drilling down in New Jersey and really starting to interview ex-employees, people that worked with him, maybe students. Like we started, let's go all out. And
Yeah.
the school out in Long Island, that was a very prestigious school, said, you know what? My pain tolerance is done. How much do I have to pay to make this go away? And
That's what it is, Matt. That's a really well developed and investigative case does something very important in this practice area.
right.
It allows me to present to the defendant, this is what we have. Let's see, and to try to persuade them, because you don't want to re-traumatize your client. If
Right.
you can do that by showing, look, there was a pattern, you are on notice. There was some type of concealment, or just using the case that you said as an example. That's what's in the back of my mind. How can I avoid having my client, a client who we know and we believe because of due diligence, we've worked with you, we believe them to be credible. How can we save them from going through this protracted process of, again, as I sometimes say, the broken tool that we have of litigation, which can be very traumatizing to a client.
That's such an interesting way that you put it. You
Mhm.
know, because there is ways, and like understanding the brokenness and understanding how to use it to your client's advantage. I think that's probably what makes a
Mm.
litigator a really good litigator.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just kind of understanding that. Well, we're gonna wind things down here. Judy, this was so much fun. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed it. Great
Yeah.
conversation.
And I hope folks pulled something from it. And if you're not doing this type of work, but you've got a strong law enforcement background with interviewing and questioning, it's something you can dip your toes into. Really understanding how to talk to people, and that whole rapport thing is really, really important. As you mentioned, your firm handles cases all over the U.S., and I know because we source
Mhm.
like, hey, I need a guy or gal in this venue or that venue. What do you got? I depend on my list of people I know to go out and do this stuff, but there's work out there. So, Judy, how do folks get a hold of you if they have any questions?
Sure, absolutely. I am at ASK LLP. So it's J Saunders at ASK LLP. And we take referrals from other attorneys. We work also co-counsel. So if anyone has a case, and I'm always happy to evaluate a case, or if this isn't your practice area and you want to make a referral, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, we'll have your contact information in the show notes. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you to Judy for coming on and discussing sex assault litigation and investigations. Thanks to Four Pillars and OREP for sponsoring the show. Additional thanks to PI Institute of Education for always supporting our podcast. Also, don't forget about investigatorstoolbox.com, where you can type in Perspectives 50 to save $50 when you join. Please follow Matt and Satellite Investigations on LinkedIn. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook too. We want your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. We'll be back next week with a new show, so make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.